Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back this Sunday to What Matters Gulf Coast. We will be discussing a very important topic who has that has finally been brought to the forefront. It is about time. As a matter of fact, it's long overdue time. I'm speaking of mental health. We are finally beginning to realize that it is not the boogeyman we think it is, and that we all have mental health. With that introduction, I am going to introduce you to our resident mental health specialist, Miss Alicia Richardson, who is also has her own private counseling services at Heart of the Matter. So if you are in need of those services, if you are listening and you like any of this that you're hearing or you want to follow up, please contact Miss Alicia Richardson at Heart of the Matter Counseling. Miss Richardson.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction, Miss Fee. And it is so good to be back with you all to talk about, what I consider to be my favorite subject. And I want to say good afternoon to everyone that is listening. And I hope that everyone is doing well today. And as Miss V said, I'm going to talk about and focus on mental health. May is Mental Health Month. However, as a mental health clinician, I focus on mental health 12 months out of the year. So for me, that is year round. And so I'll let you know that mental health is a state of well being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities and can cope with the normal stresses of life. And as you heard Miss B say, it is time for us to continue to have these conversations. Let them be a normal part of our conversation. Mental health is not the boogeyman. One of the things that I like to point out is when we're talking about our physical health, when we're talking about diabetes, when we're talking about heart disease, no one seems to have a problem with having those conversations. However, when we start talking about mental health, people want to get quiet. They want to shut down because for so long there has been a stigma associated with the word mental health. But mental health simply means that we are learning how to cope with the normal stresses of life, we can work productively and fruitfully, and we are able to make a contribution to our community. When we talk about mental health, we're talking about emotional well being, which simply refers to the emotional quality of an individual's experiences. Emotional well being is, however, influenced by a variety of demographic, economic, and situational factors. There is overwhelming evidence to support that in the African American communities, there continues to be this cloud of stigma that is negatively associated with mental health. If Black Americans, African Americans, are negatively viewing mental health, then they're not utilizing the services of mental health professionals to support their mental health and wellness practices in their daily lives. Mental Health America reports the statistics that identify the need of mental health and wellness in our community. Over the years, racism continues to have an impact on the mental health of Black Americans, and continued poor treatment of Black Americans have perpetuated the mistrust of authorities. Now, this information is a little dated, but Mental Health America reports in 2018 that more than 1 in 5 Black American people in the United States continue to live in poverty, and living below poverty twice as likely to report serious psychological and are more likely to have feelings of sadness, hopelessness, and worthlessness. That may not seem like a lot, but that is a large number of people who are suffering in silence because of a stigma. And we need to destigmatize mental health in our community and increase the supports of mental and emotional health to include wellness practices. Now, self care is often seen as selfish, but self care is not selfish. And so, my theme is to promote mental health through self care to prevent a mental health crisis. Now, self care practices are incorporated in our daily lives to support the best quality of life for an individual. Self care is intentional, it is something that we do on purpose. It includes behaviors such as exercise, proper nutrition, rest and sleep, relaxation, and abstaining from substance abuse. And I'd like to add, including water, hydration, and especially here in the South where it's extremely hot and we are about to enter into our summer season where it will be extremely hot. It's going to be important to hydrate your bodies. Self care is not taught or trained, which could explain why so many people balance and struggle with this balance in their lives. And so we want to focus on what are healthy coping techniques and strategies and include these in part as part of your daily lives. Physical health care needs proper nutrition, as I've stated before, exercise, sleep, getting enough sleep, looking at your sleep hygiene routines, resting your bodies, because many individuals experience stress and burnout, and because they have no formal introduction to healthy coping techniques and strategies, they do not recognize burnout and try to self medicate, which can lead to an overuse of substance as a way of coping. Now, in the African American community, there are beliefs that are being held related to stigma, psychological openness, and help seeking, which in turn, if we don't do those things, if we are not psychologically open, if we are not seeking help, it can affect our coping strategies. Now, one of the things that I want to encourage is practicing self care on a daily basis, practicing a self care routine. No one can tell you what your routine looks like because a self care routine is just that. It's individualized, it's taking out time to getting to know who are you and what helps you to calm down, whether that be taking a walk, whether that be sitting or laying on a couch in quiet, maybe that's listening to music with a candle or writing in a journal. Those are just some examples what an individual can do to practice self-care. Many times we misrepresent self-care with going to the spa and getting a massage or going and getting our nails done or getting our hair done. Now, those are good practices and they are nice practices. But when you sit with yourself and relax and take care of yourself, those are the kind of practices that don't cost money but can benefit your mental health tremendously. The problem is many individuals experience stress and burnout and they don't recognize these things. And so it's important that you stop and you spend a few moments each day reflecting on your day, looking at what were the things that happened that were good, what were the things that happened that caused some stress. The importance of looking at those factors are because if you begin to recognize things that are causing you stress, we can identify them as triggers. Then you can begin to put some supports in place so that you can reduce your level of stress. Now, stress is normal, so it would be foolish to say that you are going to eliminate stress. But what you can do is you can reduce your stress by recognizing those things that happen and you start to feel stress, and then you can put some strategies in place to help your body. If you pay attention to your body, there are times when events happen and you're feeling a tightness in your chest or you're feeling um, um, tightness in your muscles or a headache. And so what you would want to do at that time when you start to feel what I call physiological symptoms in your body is practice something that can be beneficial. Just like most individuals, if they get a headache, they might go get some medicine. Or most individuals, if they feel hungry, they might go get some food. Or if you feel thirsty, they might go get something to drink. Can't say water all the time, which is probably a good thing to do, is to increase our water intake. But can't say that we're doing that all the time. And we need to be just as intentional in paying attention to our mental health and how we're feeling. If you're feeling tired and you are in a safe place to get some rest, rest your body. We have a tendency to push, 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 like there is no tomorrow. And the sad part about it is when we push, 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 our tomorrow might be waking up in the bed and just not wanting to get out, just not wanting to move, just being tired, and possibly feeling burnout. And there are things that we can do to reduce our risk of burnout, but they must be intentional acts of self care. And so, again, I want to leave you with the importance of thinking about and implementing a self care plan. I also want to encourage you to find a self care partner, someone that can hold you accountable. If you've identified some things that you enjoy doing, that you can practice as part of your self care routine, having someone that can check in with you to say, hey, how is that going? I know for me, most of the people in my world understand that my self care are my plants. I have fallen in love with taking care of my plants. And so, as I have casual conversations, my friends might ask, how are those plants doing? And I can glean with pride and say, look, because I take pictures of my plants all the time. They're absolutely beautiful, they're growing. And that is something that I do in my self care routine. Now, to share a little bit as well, when we become adults, oftentimes we put away those things that we used to do as children, those things that have had brought us joy and excitement. And I want to encourage you to revisit some of those things. When was the last time you went and hopscotched? When was the last time you flew a kite? When was the last time you got on a swing? When was the last time you blew bubbles? And most people will say those are childish things, but those are things that if you do practice something similar, you don't have to do those things. Those are things that I do. But you can identify some things that when you're done, how do you feel? I know when I go riding on a swing or swinging on a swing, when I'm done, first of all, I feel like I've accomplished something, and I'm wondering what are other adults thinking about when they see me on a swing. But then I have to tell myself it doesn't matter what they think, it matters how I feel, and I feel fabulous. So I just want to encourage you today when we're talking about mental health. We're talking about taking care of ourselves so that we have the ability to function in the world around us. We're recognizing our emotions. We're recognizing when we're sad. We're recognizing when we're angry. And we have a toolbox that we can tap into when we are feeling those emotions. We know that there are things that we can do to help ourselves overcome, whether that be when you're angry, going for a walk, or sitting down and listening to music. Whether that be when you're sad, sometimes crying is appropriate, but when you cry for a longer period of time, that might be the time that you think about maybe I need to reach out to someone and talk to someone because this is more than I can handle. And by acknowledging that, it helps to destigmatize taking care of yourself, which we call mental health. And so that is your mental health moment for today. And I hope that I have said something that will make you think about the value of and importance of taking care of you, not only your physical health, but your mental health. And I'm an advocate for mental health. My thoughts are if you don't take care of your mental health, nothing else really matters. So thank you for listening and thank you for sharing this time with me today.
We want to thank Miss Alicia Richardson, and we want to thank Miss Alicia Richardson. And once again, she has brought us a very powerful message about mental health and how we do need to drop the stigma. And if there is a need to get the assistance, and more people are doing that, which is also a good thing for all of us. But if we need the help, we need to reach out and access it. And as I said before, Ms. Richardson is available for private sessions, and her company is the Heart of the Matter. And you can contact her at 251 753 0668. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, we want to thank you for your participation with us. And please join us again next Sunday for the next session on What Matters Gulf Coast.